Hey there everyone, it's Scott once again and welcome to another video. This time I'm going to be talking about the very underrated 1999 supernatural horror action film, End of Days. And this here I have a 1080p rip of it I downloaded 4 years ago, mainly because I feel like the DVD and Blu-ray versions of this film deserve more features. Hell, to be honest, my VHS tape that I have of this film had a nice little behind-the-scenes visual effects little feature on a particular sequence, which I won't reveal just yet. But either way, this film looks good, looks really good, it's highly detailed, the colors are bright, and it's good enough for me. If, let's say, Scream Factory or Shout Factory were ever to do a collector's edition, I definitely would buy it, because to me, this is a very underrated Arnold Schwarzenegger flick. I think he did a really great job, and other cast members did as well. And it's very confidently directed by Peter Hyams, which I'll definitely start off with the technical crew and the cast. So basically, like I said, Peter Hyams directed this film. He directed films like Outland, Star Chamber, 2010, the sequel to 2001, which, to me, I actually prefer that film, so sue me. I know I'm going to get shit on, but I don't care. It's what I like, and that's that. Then he did Running Scared. He did another film with Sean Connery called The Presidio. Then he did Narrow Margin, Stay Tuned, a very underrated comedy with John Ritter. Then he did 2 films with Van Damme, Time Cop, then Sudden Death. Then he did The Relic, this film. He did The Musketeer. Then he did The Sound of Thunder, which, from what I understood, had post-production problems. Then he did a few other films after that, which I only saw one of them and they were okay, but I kind of wish Peter Hyams would come back and do more action-type, horror-related stuff, because I think he definitely has the chops for that. Anywho, the film was produced by Armand Bernstein, Bill Borden, and the film was written by Andrew W. Morleau. He did a film before this, Air Force One with Harrison Ford, this film, and he actually wrote Hollow Man, which is a very underrated film, I think. And, of course, getting to the cast, Schwarzenegger, you know him, great action hero, but here he gets a chance to really show some of his acting chops, and I think the fact that he, did it seriously, I think he did a really good job in this film. But the one person that really stole the show as well was Gabriel Byrne. He did an excellent job playing the devil. It's kind of like a nice transition because he was, the scientist/priest, investigator, good guy, and now he's portraying Satan, the man, or basically a man that's possessed by Satan. And he does a really good job. He adds a certain element of humor and some realism and some just basically he gives a really great performance overall. And then you have Robin Tunney in there as the Christine York, the one that's been chosen to bear Satan's child, and basically the person that the devil wants to fuck, pretty much. Then you have Kevin Pollak as Arnold Schwarzenegger's partner. Then you have Rod Steiger as the priest. It was probably his second to last film before he died in 2002. Then you have CCH Pounder as one of the detectives. You have Jericho Cane as Thomas Aquinas. Miriam Margolis as Mabel. Then Udo Kier as Dr. Abel. And you also have Mark Margolis as the Pope. And apparently Renee Olstead as Amy Kane. She was going on to be a singer/actress that I saw in Unfriended, for example. So, interesting little tidbit there. And getting back to the overall plot of the film, it's basically kind of like a straightforward type of plot. Basically, a priest is basically, able to see able to sense a birth that's going to happen on a particular night where, basically one is going to be chosen for the, for the birth of Satan's child, pretty much. And we go through certain shifts in time, like we see him a place in Vatican City, then we shift to New York of the same year, 1979. A girl by the name of Christine York is being born. She's being taken in by the nurse caretakers, but they are later revealed to be Satanists. They basically mark her. She's now been officially chosen to bear Satan's child. Then we shift some 20 years later, around I think almost Christmas Eve or after that, and Satan's able to be released from his prison. He goes around and actually takes on the possession of Gabriel Byrne's character, which is an investment banker. He ends up walking out and ends up somehow blowing the whole place up, which is kind of odd, but I thought it was a cool effect. Then we come to Schwarzenegger's character, Jericho, who is just, depressed ever since the wife and daughter's contract killings have happened. And he's basically, suicidal. He's an alcoholic. He's about to actually put a bullet in his head, but luckily his partner stops by and he's able to put the gun down, and they're able to go back to working. He basically works as a private security company. He's still angry about God and still bitter about him. He eventually encounters Thomas Aquinas, who we later saw earlier in the film. He's much older, and he's, of course, portrayed by Jericho Cane. He basically, has to chase him down since, he was attacked and actually shot by him. And basically, when he chases him down to somewhere in the underground subway, Aquinas tells Jericho that the 1,000 years have ended and the Dark Angel is loose from his prison, and says that a particular type of girl is central, and Jericho has to shoot at him since he was going to be shot by him, by Aquinas, and then eventually Aquinas himself is arrested by the New York Police Department, which is led by CCH Pounder's character Marge, and basically she was a former colleague of Jericho, and she relays that actually Aquinas had no tongue, and Jericho and Bobby decide to investigate on their own. Like they learned that Thomas was the Vatican and actually disappeared when he came to the States. And they actually, check out his apartment, which is in poor condition. They actually find out his tongue was cut out and placed in a jar. And eventually Jericho goes on his own, talks to Father Kovacs, which is Rod Steiger's character. And Kovac asks, if Jericho believes in God. He, of course, tells him maybe once, but not anymore because of what happened to his family. Basically, Kovac doesn't really tell much other than the fact that Thomas Aquinas saw some serious shit that really messed him up, and something that none of the atheists wouldn't understand. So eventually, when we see more scenes of Satan going around, he encounters the two people that we saw earlier as under the disguise of nurses. Abel, he's able to track down Thomas Aquinas and actually cuts some words into him, and actually crucifies him up in the ceiling somehow. And then eventually, when he's actually taken down, it's actually revealed he's still alive and actually tries to kill one of the officers, but one of the police officers shoot him, kill him. It's actually, and then of course you later find out he's a Satanist. You also find out the same thing about Marge at some point. And Jericho and Bobby decipher some of the letters that were scratched into Thomas's skin. It says Christ in New York, but they later find out that it's Christine York through the, searching through the records of the DMV. They're able to, both Jericho and Bobby arrive in time to save Christine from the corrupt Vatican Knights who believe that she should be killed, to prevent all of this from happening. Both Jericho and Christine get acquainted. While Bobby actually sits out in the van, they try to learn a little bit more about her visions, because you see earlier in the film, Christine York is having these hallucinations, like she hallucinates a guy who we see earlier, when he tells her that Satan's coming for her and that he's going to fuck her, he ends up somehow breaking apart like glass, and it's just revealed to be an illusion of hers. She takes medication, stuff like that. Eventually, they both end up seeing a hallucination of some kind of odd sexual manifesto or whatever it's called on the apple or something like that. And then, of course, Abel, is able to spots them, and she's not really able to bring Christine York to Satan, so Satan actually has to go down there and get her herself, get hers, pretty much. So, and then eventually, when he notices Bobby, he actually pisses out gasoline and lights it on fire. It actually leads to the van. It kills Bobby apparently, and Jericho has a struggle fest with Mabel, and eventually he throws her into the glass. And then he encounters Marge and the police officer. They try to kill him, but luckily he pretends to surrender. He's able to have this mechanism where he just takes them out like that. And then he eventually brings her to Father Kovac, and they basically learn that she's the one that is chosen to bear Satan's child. And Jericho is pretty much skeptical about this, but nevertheless, Christine stays with them. And so Jericho heads back home, and then somehow the devil shows up, or Satan. Gabriel Byrne's character shows up and tries to tempt Jericho by offering back his family, claiming that God took him away if he would just give him the location of Christine. He eventually is able to resist and tell him no, and basically it becomes a plot of basically Arnold trying to protect Christine and battling Satan at the same time. So basically, I think overall this film was very vastly underrated. I think Schwarzenegger did a great job in his performance. I think it was a film that he really took seriously, because originally it was going to be meant for Tom Cruise, but he ended up doing Magnolia instead. And then there was a couple of different actresses that were going to be Christine. Liv Tyler was one of them, but she declined because of contract issues. And then Kate Winslet was initially cast and was actually, I think, close to filming, but then she stepped away, and then Robin Tunney took her place. But yeah, most of the cast members do a great job. Schwarzenegger really hits on all the one-liners, and the part, there's a really tender moment whenever he remembers his daughter, the little dancing ornament that she had, and he holds it close to him, and he actually has a kind of a sad moment right there to kind of bring some peace with him. So yeah, and then there's actually some great sequences and really action sequences, like whenever Jericho attempts to stop Thomas from committing suicide. There's a gun that's being Thomas actually has armed himself. He actually shot up, then has like some kind of a pistol and actually shoots at Jericho, but he misses. He's able to move his head around, prevent the bullets from hitting him. And then apparently there's a nice little sequence where he's having a struggle fest with Mabel, because apparently she's superhuman, and actually you even see a part where she has long fingernails and actually tries to scratch at him. He actually kind of gets owned, but then he's able to shove her down in this little table of glass, pretty much. And yeah, there's actually a little cool sequence where he has this mechanism that he has to hide his Glocks or something like that. And before Marge and the police officer can kill him, he's able to just do like that, which is really cool. And also there's some good sequences where, like whenever he's able to rescue Christine from Satan, like he's able to arm himself with a grenade launcher and take a couple of Glocks and some grenade rounds, pretty much. He's able to he also, the grenade launcher also kind of has like a machine gun type of deal. He's able to shoot at them. He's able to blow up parts of the underground place where Satan and his followers were at. And there's a battle sequence on the underground train where basically there's a little kind of sequence where they try to kill Satan at first by running over him. That doesn't work. He actually ends up killing the conductor by just ripping out his heart. And whenever the Jericho has to separate the cars, and when Satan tries to jump out at him, Jericho shoots a grenade into him. It blows up the train and presumably him, more than likely. And there's a little cool sequence where whenever the train collides with the wreckage, it's pretty cool how it's done. It's actually one of the visual effects sequence that was on my VHS tape, but for some reason I don't think it ever made it onto the DVD or Blu-ray, unless if I'm wrong on that. I think it was cool how they did it. It was like a miniature set, pretty much. So I thought this film definitely had a budget behind it. It definitely had nice visuals, good action sequences, and Peter Hyams is really confident behind the camera because he's a very talented cinematographer too, because he's done this on a majority of his films, pretty much. And you have that. You also have the little battle between Satan and Arnold, where it's basically a winged creature. And spoilers here, even though it possesses him, somehow Arnold's character is able to fight it off. He actually jumps on the sword and stabs himself, and the fire is able to escape. And in the end, Jericho wins. He gets a happy ending. He gets to be reunited with his wife and whatever. So yeah, he actually has a happy ending, even though he dies, but he dies at least heroically. But yeah, there's also some fun one-liners, like whenever there's a scene where, there's a blending sequence whenever we first encounter Jericho and Bobby. Like Bobby brings him coffee, Jericho pours the coffee in the blender, he throws other stuff in, he throws like a piece of pizza that was laying on the floor, he throws wine in there, he throws Pepto-Bismol in there, some Chinese food, and blends it all in there. He says breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and he drinks it all. He tries to offer it to Bobby. He's like, "No, I'm good." And then whenever Jericho gets shot at, and when Bobby checks, for a bulletproof vest, he tells him, "Get up, you pussy." And then, of course, after he, gosh, I was going to say, I don't know if it's important. But anyways, whenever he encounters, the devil the first time at his apartment, he's like, the devil's telling him, how God is the biggest underachiever of all. He's just a good publicist, that's all. And he tells him that the overrated press kit, the Bible, and they say, shit happens, please. And how when something good happens, it's his will. When something bad happens, he works in mysterious ways. And he basically says, like I said before, he says, shit happens, please. And he's like, he treated you like garbage and you walked away. And then he tries to say that, he can make it like his family never died, all if he would just give the location of Christine. He refuses, and Satan says, you don't want to see me get upset. And then, of course, Schwarzenegger's popular line, oh, you think you know bad, huh? Well, you're a fucking choir boy compared to me. A choir boy! And Satan's like, oh, you really are in touch with your anger. I like that. He's like, I don't know about you, but I'm going to have a drink. And then Arnold warns him to get out and ask him about the end of days. And basically Satan's saying it's a change in management. It'll be so cool. You'll be right with me. He still tries to tempt Arnold, but Arnold tells him to go to hell. Satan gets really pissed and says, hell comes to you. And they have a bit of a fight. He actually throws Jericho out the window and actually even tries to offer, says to take my hand. And of course Arnold pretends to do so, but he ends up grabbing Satan on the shoulder and just throws him out. Says, fuck you! Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. And then of course when Bobby actually is apparently back, Jericho thinks that Satan has possessed him, and he actually shoots at him. He's like, and Jericho's like, you're bleeding. He's like, of course I'm bleeding. You fucking shot me. I just needed to find out. He's like, well, you found out. He's like, stop being such a pussy. It's just a scratch. But of course, you later find out that Bobby's actually working for Satan. But somehow later on, when he encounters Bobby again, he's able to convince Bobby that that's not the way to go. And Satan actually lights him up for breaking the deal. And that enrages Jericho. He actually lays more rounds into him. And that's when the battle ensues between them. So it's definitely got some fun one-liners. The cast do a great job, especially Arnold. And believe it or not, Gabriel Byrne really steals this film as Satan. He really does a great job with the humor, the dialogue, and everything. The one-liners and the fact that he can be funny, but he can be damn well intimidating. Like there was a scene where apparently since Dr. Abel was unable to convince Mabel to come bring Christine to him, he actually just punches right through his fucking skull. He's like, "Well, you know what? I should just go to her." Just punches right through his head, and the brains splatter on his fingers, so he has to remove it. And then apparently, there's actually a scene where apparently this Satanist, this young teenage kid has this Satan Rules t-shirt, and Satan's like, "Hey, I like the shirt," and this punk kid's like, "Screw you, asshole." And then when he skates off, Satan whispers, "Hey, kid." And then actually the kid turns around and looks at him, and then a fucking bus hits him, and he's like, "Nice shirt." So there's actually moments of levity and humor, but you can see how much of a ruthless person he can be. Like he punched the skull out. He actually killed Mabel. Just said you only had one simple job and you couldn't even do that, and he somehow is able to crush her neck or something like that. So yeah, that's what happens. But yeah, I think the action sequences, the one-liners, they really hold up. And sorry, that's the phone. You have to excuse me on that. Can't do anything about that unless it's not really important. But anyways, back on the subject of the film. It's a heck of a roller coaster. It's got great one-liners, great action sequences. I really can't think of any flaws with this film, to be honest. I can't remember what else was memorable. There's a really good action sequence in the church when Arnold confronts Satan, and Satan is this bat-winged creature. And even when Satan is able to possess him, Jericho is able to fight it off, but at least but he has to sacrifice himself. It's a very well done sequence. I like how he has to find a way to kind of renew his faith, considering what's happened. Like he's able to throw away his grenade and even says, "Please God, help me, give me strength." And I think it was a really good, fine acting moment for Arnold. And there's actually some good sequences where he confronts the Vatican Knights who try to assassinate Christine. He actually shoots the knife, and whenever the Vatican leader knight tries to stab her again, he actually shoots through his hand. He's like, "I can do this all day." I think maybe the one minor flaw is that apparently it actually kind of steals a scene from Stigmata, because there's actually a little scene where a woman's actually receiving Stigmata, and I thought that was kind of ironic. I talked about Stigmata, and Gabriel Byrne was also in Stigmata as well, and there's a little Stigmata scene in this well, so I thought it was kind of odd, but hey, that's me. But anyways, I don't know what else to say, but I would definitely recommend this movie. This is a really fun, action-packed with some horror elements. I like how it's pretty much simple and to the point. Yeah, it might be a little cheesy in areas, or not cheesy, but just, corny in some areas, but I think it's a fun film. I really think it is, and Arnold does a really great job, and it deserves so much better on Blu-ray and DVD, and I think people are really being unfair. It certainly didn't deserve 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's definitely a fun film. But yeah, I would definitely recommend watching this film, and I can't even think of anything else what else was great other than like I said before, action sequences are top-notch. It has a budget. It's confidently directed by Peter Hyams. It's got some great lighting. It It has a good use of practical and CG effects, at least better than nowadays. And you got some good, capable actors. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Gabriel Byrne are at the top of their game. They play well with each other. Tunney does okay. I kind of wish we would have had a little... I think one of the other flaws, I wish we would have seen more of Chicago and a little bit more of the friendship. I mean, they do have a moment where he talks about, you know, having the inflatable kind of girlfriend, which I thought was kind of funny. So it's got good moments of levity and good one-liners, good action sequences, very confidently directed. I pretty much am repeating myself, but you know what can I say? Go see this, watch this film. I definitely would recommend it. You're in for a treat. It's basically on the verge of Y2K, which is what they kind of threw in there, which is kind of interesting. So yeah. But anyways, what am I doing? Go see this film, watch it. I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. If you're an Arnold fan, or if you're a typical action horror type film, this is the perfect blend of this. Go watch it. Well worth it. I give it 2 thumbs up. Anywho, hopefully I'll do another review soon. I don't know when that will be, but it should be coming. Anyways, I will see you later, folks. Bye-bye.